B2C Warehousing and Fulfillment for your e-commerce from Hong Kong, Global from Asia, episode number 103.
Welcome to the Global from Asia podcast, where the daunting process of running an international business from Hong Kong is broken down into straight-up, actionable advice. And now, your host, Michael Michelini.
Are you guys ready to rock? I'm getting a bit of a second wind for this Global from Asia podcast and growing up the agency of helping people in Hong Kong after the DC BKK conference that was just passed in Bangkok. I'm going to take some bigger investments and get an office right in the middle of TST district in Kowloon. I'm going to be hosting some small meetups there, doing podcast interviews there, mini meetings, meetups, gatherings. So if you're coming through Hong Kong, you got a place. Lease is going to start in early November, and if you're interested in getting involved, getting some office space or other ideas, please reach out. Okay, now for this week's show. Way back on episode number 37, we had my friend Chris Moore on the show talking about how he opened an HSBC Hong Kong bank account. And nowadays, he's over in a Hong Kong fulfillment company startup called Floship. It's pretty hot in town lately, and he's going to share with us, which is a topic often asked to me, is how do you fulfill your e-commerce orders from Hong Kong for the global market? Before we get started, if you do choose to sign up for his service and you want to give me a thank you with a little commission, you can sign up via my link, globalfromasia.com/Floship, Floship. That would be great. But if not, no hard feelings. Alrighty, let's get into the show. Okay, thank you everybody for tuning in to another Global from Asia podcast. We have a returning guest, Chris Moore. So thank you for joining, Chris. You were on talking about HSBC bank accounts back a while ago, and always great to have you here.
Thanks. Good to be back, Mike.
So today we got you talking about fulfillment from Hong Kong, which has been one of the most popular requested shows, so I'm glad we're doing this. And maybe just give a little bit of background about your experience with that now and where you're at in business.
Okay, I am working at a funded startup called Floship. They opened their doors in early February 2015. A few of the founders have deep logistics ties to China and globally, and they saw some opportunities in the market and have been running hard, growing ever since. And I came on board here a few months back, doing their marketing and events and things like that. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I've even given me some updates, and it sounds like things are going pretty crazy there. So it's awesome, growing. And yeah, awesome. So yeah, I think it's, we always talk about Hong Kong as kind of like this logistics hub for, China to the world, the gateway. And so we've talked about it a little bit on the previous episodes, but today's more, I guess you guys specialize on B2C, which is business to consumer, right? So retail shipments.
Yeah. Our ideal customers right now that we're actively targeting and that we can add value to their system and also open opportunities that they don't have yet because they don't know about a service like ours is we have many crowdfunding clients that get their stuff produced in China or have lots of shipping that needs to be done in Asia. And then e-commerce clients that are shipping worldwide or get small amounts of stuff produced in China and don't really have the need to consolidate it and put it on a ship and wait all that time and get it back to the US or Australia or Europe.
Got it. Yeah. So basically the idea is buy from your, buy from your factory in China, and then instead of shipping it on LCL or FCL, which is like container loads of, on the ocean, you could send it down to your warehouse in Hong Kong, and you guys would warehouse it. And then as the orders come in from your end customer, from the client's end customer, it could be shipped directly to them anywhere in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, we ship to over 200 countries, and we have partnerships with a ton of couriers, freight forwarders, etc. And so it allows people that, say, have a Shopify store or have only been doing something like FBA, say within the US or within Australia, to be able to expand and take advantages of opportunities in markets like in growing e-commerce in Southeast Asia or, maybe they get a few orders in Europe, Africa even, and they can have everything in one fulfillment center here. We have plugins for Shopify, Magento. We're building one out for WooCommerce. So it's almost plug and play. Once the stuff's in the warehouse, they order on your site. You do the marketing and what you're good at, building your business, or you can be off like a location independent person, almost a drop ship model. But if it's your own brands, we take care of all the fulfillment, tracking, all that at almost domestic rates in many territories around the world. And another advantage is Hong Kong's duty-free port. So anything coming in here, whether it's from China, Europe, the US, there's no duties paid on that. And we have many clients who are startups themselves, say in hardware, making stuff in Shenzhen or the wider Guangdong area, and they haven't proven markets or proven their product yet. And if they were going to ship stuff by boat or by air freight, that's already a sunk cost. And then it has to sit in customs in the US or wherever it's going. And they have to pay the bonds on that, the customs house. That takes more time. And then they have to get a fulfillment center in each of the markets they're trying to enter and then figure out how to sell in that market. We can take some of that risk out by putting their stuff here. They can focus on the marketing in the markets that they want to target. And then when they make those sales, we can ship directly to their customers from Hong Kong. And they don't have all the sunk costs in as they're developing out their business model. So we cut some of the risk out and some of the time out. People can get up and running faster. After a certain volume, when their models are proven or the demand for their products are proven, it might make more sense for them to, send 1,000, 2,000 units to their markets that have that high demand.
Yep. Like basically lean startup is like the buzzword, I guess, or of course, just, proof of concept before you make big investments, right? So this is pretty cool. So just to put it out there, I'm sure people are wondering the cost to warehouse. Is it, maybe give us some numbers and do you know how that compares to maybe other places, if by chance?
So we only charge for three things, which is pick and pack, which is one, shipping, and then warehouse. And the warehouse is $1.55 US cubic meter per day, up to 500 orders. After that, there's discounts depending on your volumes. How that compares to other warehouses, I am uncertain, actually.
Sure. I guess listeners might know their own numbers, but cool. And then I think you kind of already gave the idea, but I have the keyword on my list of consolidate, which I see, is a lot of times people want to buy from multiple suppliers in China, and then they're shipping on by air separately to, say, U.S. warehouses or overseas warehouses. So you guys can basically just receive everything separately or consolidate them into that client's warehouse, right? Or
Correct. So if you were buying from multiple suppliers in Hong Kong or anywhere in Asia or anywhere in the world, you can have all of your SKUs in one warehouse, and then we will fulfill that for you. You'll have your own separate space in that warehouse.
Got it. But just to clarify, it's more for B2C, so you wouldn't really use that to receive them and then ship them out, right? Like by ocean, it would be more just one by one shipments to your customer.
Right. Our ideal clients are e-commerce B2C people. Yep. And then the crowdfunding, we do like cross-docking. So if a lot of people that are doing crowdfunding, they have to fulfill all over the world. And in the US, there's fulfillment houses that specialize in crowdfunding, but they're only cost effective if you're shipping in the US. I'd like to think, I don't know of any other competitors that ship worldwide like we do at the same rates. And so we even get people who had a ton of orders from the US, and maybe the stuff was produced in the US, but they're doing their Asia fulfillment from our warehouses. So that's cross-docking, but for the consolidation and then moving a lot of stuff to, say, another warehouse, we don't do that. And we have one other option that I guess Floship branded, we call it Flow Post, and that's postal injection. So if you have 100, 200, or even a few thousand orders at once, we consolidate that onto air freight. We label it with the local postal codes. So like if you were shipping into the US, it would get labeled with the USPS stuff here, and then it would go unit by unit through customs. And that's an advantage, for example, in the US, if you're allowed to ship stuff B2C, as long as it's under 200 US retail, there's no duties or anything on that. And there's a similar threshold in Australia. In Europe, it's much less. So it's advantageous for that because everybody saves.
Awesome. Thanks for all that info. So I'm sure people are curious, shipping time. So, obviously Hong Kong's on the other side of the world from the US and other popular buyer destinations. So can you give us at least some range of ideas of shipping times and locations?
Worldwide, we can get anything anywhere within 1 to 3 weeks. That would be our most economic shipping method. We also have an express that, of course, costs more, and 1 to 3 days worldwide. And what most people use is our 4 to 6 day shipping method. So,
okay. And is there? Of course, I know price depends on the weight, but maybe like a Jiffy pack or like an envelope or something, like a light look.
Shipping to the US or Australia, for example, up to 100 grams, it can cost $2 to $3 US. That's the cheapest option.
Got it. And that would be 1 week to 3 weeks, or would that be 4 to 6 days?
4 to 8 days.
4 to 8 days. Okay. Yes. Again, listen, everybody listening, we're trying to, because we know we don't want to just give we want to put numbers in the show, but of course, you might be listening to this at a later date and rates do change. So please don't blame me or Chris if the numbers are different, but we're just trying to give you guys some hard numbers when you're listening to this, just get some ideas. So,
and for anybody that wants very accurate estimates, you can go to floship.com and we have a price estimator, and you put in the country and the weight and the approximate size and the time, and it'll spit out an estimate.
Okay.
And then if you decide that that's kind of in your price range or competitive with other people you've been speaking to, but you'd like to consolidate all of your stuff in one spot, then depending on what you're shipping, you need to get on a call with one of the salespeople, because they have a thing called volumetric weight, which is like how big the thing is, goes into the factoring of the shipping. So
okay, yep, sure. I mean, there's so many different, because something can be really lightweight, but if it's like very long or just big size, it'll cost a lot of money to ship. So like I did that with poster tubes. Talking about that written Chinese poster, and it's so long that it's like a special size, so it costs like $20 or $30 to ship from like China to the US.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with volumetric weight, and the measurements on that kind of stuff. Like if you shave off half an inch or something, if you can fall in certain terms, then you save a ton, and so that goes into like your packaging and everything there, because some people don't consider when they're developing products how they're going to ship it. And then when they get to the shipping, if they would have had forethought about how they were going to ship worldwide and what the shipping rules were, they could have saved a ton by designing their boxes and everything around that, which also helps sales, because then people get things for cheaper when you can have free or very cheap shipping. So that's something to consider for any entrepreneurs or product developers out there. No matter if you're shipping from us or anywhere in the world, you're going to run into that. So when you're planning a product or planning product packaging, you definitely want to consult with a few different shipping things.
Yep. So keep that in mind. Product designers there. So yeah, smaller. Not just the weight, but the size. Size does matter.
What does your wife think about that?
All right, let's just move to the next topic here. All right. So Hong Kong fulfillment, which we've been talking about, and of course the big giant in the room, FBA by Amazon Fulfillment. I'm sure you guys get compared to them a lot. What's the normal thought process here?
Well, FBA, for speaking with one of the founders, that's part of the inspiration for starting the company. Having that full service fulfillment where you just have your stuff in there, you have the plugins, and we manage everything. We are not at the level of FBA, but we could integrate with Amazon if people were doing FBA sort of things, or they wanted to expand outside of the US market, because Shopify integrates with Amazon. But in comparison to FBA, we are looking at attracting people who have had success on Amazon. We actually have a free book on our website called Beyond Amazon, 150 of the largest e-commerce stores and marketplaces to grow your product empire, which is outside the US. There are Lazada, Rakuten, all these giant, like, first to come to mind e-commerce places in other countries that people shop on other than Amazon. And so we see that as a giant opportunity, since we can ship to all those marketplaces with almost the ease of an FBA service. So for anybody interested in that, you can go to our website, look up Beyond Amazon. I'll give Michael the link. And it's a brief intro to the 3 top marketplaces in 50 top markets in the world.
So basically, Amazon's still for the US. If you're just doing US, it might be okay,
right.
But you could use both, or this is what you're more targeting international market, really?
We are educating and marketing towards some people, groups who are currently selling, say, white label products or their own products via the FBA model, that are looking to expand and find new markets outside of that system. Because FBA really only works in the US right now. I know they just opened in Mexico, but you have to sell through syndicates. It's pretty complicated. They do have some warehouses in Europe, but it's not as plug and play as in the US. And most people, even that I meet from abroad that are killing it on Amazon with their own products, they're all selling that in the US market. And so it's a wide world out there, and there are tons of other marketplaces with tons of traffic, tons of volume. And we see that as a very tempting market that we can service, and we can help people learn about and connect them with individuals who can translate their product descriptions, do marketing in the local language for them, localize their products so that they can take advantages of the growing markets around the world. For example, Southeast Asia, online shopping and e-commerce is growing like it was in the US in the early 2000s. You know, it's the Wild West. There's lots of opportunity. We've seen these models happen before, and the growth is there. And so people are missing out on those opportunities if they're not getting into these markets.
Got it. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're over here in Asia, and listeners most likely listening to this show are interested in international business. So, you know, it's always good to diversify if you can. So I guess just to clarify, then you could manage stock in both your facility as well as like FBA, and plugins would work, and there'd be, I guess, a little bit of programming, or I don't want to put you on the spot again, but maybe I guess so developers would have to make it work with, like, say, Shopify or something.
So we have 3 developers in the States and 1 in Uruguay. It's the gal leading it used to work for, she used to be one of the top developers at Etsy. And so she leads our team of developers that are creating plugins we already have 1 for Shopify. We have 1 for Magento. We have 1 in development for WooCommerce. And we're basically just starting with the most popular e-commerce stores and working our way down, since we have limited resources at the moment.
Sure.
And, every month or so we have a new plugin. So you just add that and it connects to our fulfillment and your shopping cart, and says anyone who's using any of those platforms would understand how easy that is. And if there are complications, like I said, we have our own developers that will hop on the phone or jump into your back end of your site and make sure that everything's operating properly so that you can get your business running and fulfill internationally with ease.
Cool. Great. So let's redirect into China a little bit. So there are some people that can fulfill directly from, say, their factory or from inside China. Do you happen to know if there's different? I think it's still better with Hong Kong because you can go into the free trade port and export out of China first and then sell it. Is that something you're aware of, or?
Do you mean
like VAT or FAPIA, or by exporting it to Hong Kong, you would get maybe a rebate or the factory would or something, or?
I'm not aware of that, but that's very interesting for me, because we're opening up a a China lane to help people sell into China and fulfill from Hong Kong because you don't have the duties. And a few months back, all the laws changed, which allow foreigners and people to compete at a local level in China. And one of the things when you fulfill from Hong Kong, you don't have to have a Chinese company, which before you'd have to, which you've done. You know what a headache that is incorporating on the ground in China and going through all the bureaucracy and doing all that. If you're shipping from Hong Kong, even if you produce stuff in China, you don't have to jump through all that. And there's no duties and you get a lot of the advantages. But we're developing that. We're going to have some case studies out once we've got that in a working kind of beta mode and have some partners and people who can list and help you market things in China so you can take advantage of that almost at a turnkey sort of deal. But this would be more for sellers that have, ideally the Chinese market likes stuff produced in the US or things they can't get in China. And as you know, live in there, there's a lot of things produced in China that you can't buy in China that we can buy when we're back home or wherever we are in the world. And so bringing some of those products or things made abroad into China, there's a lot of appetite for that in the Chinese market, and we want to make that easier for people to do.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally behind that, and I love to follow your progress as that develops. Cool. So tax, fun stuff. I kind of just glanced on it with the China thing, and you gave me some other, some input there. But sales tax, in like the US, it's pretty complicated with like every state has different sales tax, and I haven't been following it too closely, but like Amazon's been kind of fighting different states that want to collect sales tax for every customer there, or even if you don't have a company there. This is obviously a very tricky, loaded question, but if you could kind of give us the best answer for people dealing with like sales tax, maybe in Europe or VAT in Europe and like the US or other places.
My short and simple answer for that is it is the responsibility of the seller. Yeah. And I know Shopify, I've opened a few stores with it, at least in the US. It automatically walks you through, like when you're setting up your store, it walks you through all the different tax stuff in the States. But to be honest, that's a little outside of my domain at this point in time.
Sure. I guess it probably also depends where the clients, users, companies are registered. So, yeah, I mean, this is very complex and rapidly developing things. But, I think all these governments are just wondering how to claim as much tax as they can, and where do these sellers exist? Where does the sale happen? Where does all that different things happen? Because it's shipping from your facility in Hong Kong. They're buying it from China. Their companies are registered maybe in Hong Kong or maybe in the US or maybe somewhere else, and the customers in the US, and it's pretty complex stuff. I don't know. We'll see. I'm glad I'm not a politician for a lot of different reasons, but.
Well, so some of the reasons that the company was created is because of legal loopholes that exist between China and Hong Kong as a free port and as the world's biggest air freight hub, because you can ship to the US without having to get duties up to $200. And similar in Australia, the threshold's a little lower in Europe. I think I mentioned it before, but there are advantages, and then there's complexities on top of those advantages that you as a seller, however you have your business structured, should probably talk to your accountant about. And yeah, it can get complex. So I imagine you need a pretty well-versed, international-oriented tax person to do that. And new specialties are arising, so that's an opportunity too.
Yep. Yeah, I get that question a lot, but we'll see. Just maybe later you might get a big tax bill, and hopefully you can get around it if that happens to some of the listeners. But all right, let's maybe try to wrap this all together with maybe an example case study. Maybe I'm an example. I want to buy widgets from maybe a southern China factory. Maybe Shenzhen's easier. Maybe they're LED flashlights or something, and so I want to sell these online, e-commerce, B2C. Maybe I'm trying to, so I want to take part in this Hong Kong fulfillment warehouse. I send it there. Will I be able to sell in China e-commerce, like maybe Taobao for easy, and then can I also sell on like Amazon in the US from there, or what do you know, I know there's probably a lot of different ways you can do it, but
you get the stuff to our warehouse. There's no duties crossing the border from mainland into Hong Kong. Once it's in the warehouse, you can sell it anywhere you want in the world. We can fulfill it. If you have a Shopify store or a Magento store, then our plugins work perfectly. So when that sale gets made, it just comes into our system. We ship it out. You get the tracking numbers and everything. So there's no barrier to entry there. You could sell on Amazon. Of course, we are not an FBA warehouse. Via some wraparound with Amazon and Shopify, you can use the Shopify plugin to sell on Amazon. So yes, all of those examples you gave, we can service.
Of course, there might be differences for some, I think, there's certain situations where FBA might be better for sales for the Amazon seller.
Yeah, it depends where you're selling. Like if you're traditionally doing FBA, one of the advantages of FBA, especially in the US, is like if you have Amazon Prime and you even have your own web store. I know this from talking to a bunch of sellers who have Shopify and Amazon, is they look at their analytics, and a lot of users will go and research the product on their website, but I think it was something around 30 or 40% will then go and buy on Amazon because they get second day free shipping. So there's advantages to having your stuff in FBA in the US if you are there, quick ship times and all that. If that was the route you wanted to go, but you weren't sure about your market yet, and you didn't do a pre-sale type thing like crowdfunding to validate your product, and you wanted to buy a small MOQ and you wanted to cut the risk of shipping it and going through all the duties and everything in the US, then it would make sense to list it on Amazon in the US, put 200 or 300 units in a warehouse here, see if it sells. If you do really well, then you might want to order a few thousand and actually take that time and ship it to the US via air freight or freight forwarding on a ship.
Okay.
And then we could bridge your time there, because it takes about a month on a ship. You could keep units in the warehouse here and still service those customers, not lose your Amazon rankings by having no inventory. And then when the stuff gets there, it would get spread out in all the different warehouses for FBA. So, but our ideal clients are going more international markets outside the US. But for large volumes, yeah, putting stuff in Amazon, if that's what the seller's already doing, then it probably makes more sense for them to go that route at this point in time.
Cool. All right. Thanks so much, Chris. Anything I missed you want to cover? Or I guess you got the ebook on the site. It's Floship without the W, right? FLOSHIP.com.
Correct. FLOSHIP.com. Hop around there. We've got a blog with a lot of stuff on e-commerce, crowdfunding. We're also looking for guest blog opportunities. And we have a platform if people out there in the audience have synergistic businesses and are looking for an audience of their own to drive some traffic back to your place. I do content, so you can contact me, chris@floship.com.
Awesome. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. And that's a wrap. Maybe we'll get you on again for another topic. You're awesome.
Yeah, right on, buddy. Good to catch up.
Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on again and sharing your value and your experiences. If you do want to thank him or give him any other feedback, please he is working in shipping, ship him a quick note at chris@floship.com, FLOSHIP. And like I said earlier, if you do decide to go down the route of signing up for their service and want to give me a thanks, you can follow the link globalfromasia.com/Floship. Alrighty, so there's tons of people coming in for the Canton Fair and Global Sources Fair, and it inspired me to write up a massive blog post giving some pointers, totally free, not even email required. I link it up at the show notes at globalfromasia.com/103. Till next time, everybody, stay positive and keep on pushing forward to grow your global business. Peace.
To get more info about running an international business via Hong Kong, please visit our website at www.globalfromasia.com. That's www.globalfromasia.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to our iTunes feed. Thanks for tuning in.